10-point lead coming in. I think he had 40 on you, Bill. So, Davey was and that hurts, Bill, because, one of the things I was going to ask you about, Bill, you guys started the season. You've gone on to drive for Junior Johnson, leading your family team, and started out on fire, won 4 of the first 5 races. At that point, were you saying, hey, this is going to be really something special?
Well, I thought that, but that as the year played out, that didn't work out so well. These guys will take somehow they don't work out. But it was all in all a good year. I can't look back and say that did I done anything any different? We got some bad luck there going in, but it's a bad situation. But that's all I have.
So Bill led the points a good bit of the year. After those 4 wins, didn't get another win until he got here to Atlanta. Had fallen behind in the points championship. But you had one strategy. You had one strategy for the race. Lead as many laps as you could.
I thought if you won one race, then you're doing a hell of a job.
So Bill came in and their plan was to win the race. One thing that was interesting about this, Bill, I did a little research on this. The car you drove to win that day, Davey Allison, that had trouble through the year, had crashed a couple cars. I guess this last one was at Charlotte. His team went to your team and said, we're kind of out of cars. Could you loan us a car for a while? And they went down to Junior's shop and picked the car and sat in their trailer for about 5 or 6 weeks until they could get some cars built. They get here to Atlanta in the race. Robert Yates, the Davey's car owner, goes over, looks at the car and goes, my gosh, the car Bill's driving is the one we had in the truck all year, and we never used it.
See, that's why I didn't win any more races. That was Yates' truck.
And the car is sitting right out there. I don't know if you can see it, but yeah, it's sitting right there. So if you get a chance, go check it out. Jeff, I have to ask you, starting out from your perspective, how wide-eyed were you coming into this race? Did you know that this moment was a big one?
I don't know if I could kind of understand the level that it was at until I got here. We came and tested, and felt really good. Had a great test. We were really fast, and I was coming here more of how are we going to run and don't mess up. But when I got here and I saw Richard walking through the garage area, just a mob of people around him and signing autographs and doing interviews, I was like, oh, this is way bigger than I had ever anticipated my first race being. And then also the buildup of the story of the championship. So at that point it became, I just want to go under the radar and just kind of come out of this thing clean and not get in the way of the championship, although some could argue that we got involved because of the damage that we had on our car and a roll of tape that flew off the deck lid from off the pit road on the racetrack. I'm sure that didn't have anything to do with you winning, Bill. But yeah, so, looking back on the driver's meet, also I remember being really special. Just, Richard, he spoke briefly and handed out these really cool mementos, these money clips that went to everybody in the field that was starting the race that day, which I still have today. And Burt Reynolds and just, different people were there, and you're like, man, this is super cool to be a part of this. And so, my day didn't go very well either, but I look back on it and just a great memory to be a part of it.
We're glad you were impressed enough you wanted to stay around a little longer and run a few more races. That was good.
I wasn't going to end my career on the first weekend out, backing it into the turn 1 and 2 wall.
Now you mentioned that you guys came down and practiced. Did you come down twice, I believe?
Back then we may have.
Yeah.
I know we came here and we were really fast.
Put a lot of laps on. I kind of in the back of my mind figured you guys were going to try to come down and sneak in and win the pole.
Well, yeah, that's what I tried to do, and about wrecked in qualifying, and we had to do second round qualifying. Then, back then it was all about is the car tight or is it tight enough? because you know, I was just on this rampage and wanting to get the car to turn, It was always too tight. And then when we rolled off, either taped up the ball line, we were way too loose. But when we started the race, we were way too loose. And that was like that for me for about the next 8 months, until I finally started realizing maybe I need to start this thing out a lot tighter than that. And now that's when we started putting some consistent finishes.
To skip ahead a little bit, I want to go to Richard Petty. At the end of the race, getting to do the lap around while they're playing Alabama's, Richard Petty fans over the grandstand PA. What was that moment like for you?
You know, it was just one of them deals. I worked all year for the last race. We didn't have a good year. We were so busy just doing different things, and it was really emotional deal because it was going to be the very last race, and naturally we wanted to finish the race. I wanted to run a lot better than what I did, but I beat him anyway. Okay.
It was a race. It was a race for laughs that day.
But it was so emotional, not only for me but for the crew and all that stuff. And then somewhere in the middle of the race, we got in that big wreck. I don't know if I cost or not, but anyhow, and we just went out in a blaze instead of a blaze of glory. But then the guys in the crew and stuff, I said, we're through. It's all over with. They said, no, we're going to finish this race. So they worked for a couple hours on the car. I guess up on the hill somewhere. They worked on the car and got it ready, and I went out and ran the last couple of laps down on the flat and get out of everybody's way. But it was emotional, before the race, got really emotional during the race. And then when it was over, it was really emotional because that was the very first lap. We had my whole family here, and we laughed some, cried some. I think everybody thought it was just over with, and from that standpoint, all we had to look to the future and sort of see what we're going to do now. Because Dale Inman, my crew chief, always told me the only reason I drove a race car, I was too sorry to work. So I thought maybe after I quit driving, I'd go get a job. But I didn't retire. I just done something different, and so we're still around. We go to all the races, and it's been I think next year will be my 75th year in racing. I went to the very first race in 1949 with my dad, and I was like 11 years old. So we've been going to racing, been racing all our lives. So, I don't know what's going to happen next year, but we've got to get through this year first.
Well, Richard, you have been racing's #1 ambassador for NASCAR all these years. You're loved by the fans.
That's because I've been here longer.
You announced on October 1st, the year prior, that you were going to do the Fan Appreciation Tour. You really committed yourself to making yourself available to as many fans as you could. That had to have been exhausting throughout the whole year.
Without the fans, Richard Petty would probably have to work for a living. Okay? And I appreciate it. Thank you guys.
So